here we are again. New Zealand is in a technical recession after 2 quarters of negative growth. Apart from during the COVID pandemic, it's the weakest 6-month period since 1991. Today's GDP, gross domestic product update, shows the economy declined 1% in the 3 months to September, following a 1.1% fall in the June quarter. Now, that June figure has been revised down significantly by Stats NZ from the originally reported 0.2%, meaning it is a much deeper recession than we thought. The latest quarterly stats show declines in manufacturing, construction and a big fall in electricity, gas, water and waste services. Agriculture, however, bucked the trend, up 1.4%, driven by growth in horticulture and dairy farming. As Zane Small reports, despite the gloomy outlook, some businesses are still making plans to expand.
It's called the Street Dog, a $12,000 electric motorbike manufactured right here in New Zealand at Kiwi company FTN Motion's factory in Hamilton.
I've got 190 odd bikes, I think, delivered to customers around New Zealand. We've got our first one going over to Australia tomorrow, actually. So it's a big moment for the company.
A startup that's bucking the trend in a sluggish economy.
It's all kind of worked out. Yeah, quite lucky for us, I suppose. Yeah, we feel very lucky.
But good fortune is in short supply. Today's update from Stats NZ showed GDP decreased by 1% in the September quarter. That followed a 1.1% decline in the 3 months to June, a figure Stats NZ revised down from 0.2%, a lot worse than previously thought.
When we get the new, more detailed data that comes through, sometimes it shows, particularly in periods of high inflation, that some industries are actually bigger relatively than they were before.
In the September quarter, it was electricity, gas and water services that saw one of the biggest contractions, down 3.7%. It was during that time when electricity prices soared due to a shortage of gas and low hydro lake levels.
The wholesale electricity prices have really plunged. The lake levels are filled up again. So we know that's something it's not going to be repeated next time.
But it pushed some manufacturing companies to the brink, including Winstone Pulp International. Citing high power prices in September, it confirmed the closure of 2 mills near Ruapehu, affecting more than 200 jobs. OG Fibre Solutions, also blaming electricity prices, would shut its Penrose mill, costing 75 workers.
In the case of manufacturing, certainly it's a sector that's been under pressure for quite some time.
New Zealand is still recovering from the COVID period, when inflation soared. To bring prices under control, interest rates were hiked up to reduce demand. It worked, but the consequence of reduced spending was that businesses suffered from reduced income. And now unemployment is on the rise. Household spending was down 0.3%, driven by a fall in essentials, including groceries and electricity.
Certainly households have been squeezed in the last couple of years.
The pressure on households was reflected earlier this week in Treasury's update. Tax revenue was $13 billion lower than expected. Not what a finance minister wants to hear.
We have a tough job on our hands.
Looking at the countries we compare ourselves to, Australia, Canada and the UK, New Zealand now stands alone with negative quarterly growth. Labour blames the coalition's spending cuts.
So internationally, what governments are doing is not doing austerity programs. So they're spending in parts of the economy that keep it growing.
It's economic illiteracy. What's in fact happened is that we had sky-high inflation. The Reserve Bank was forced to put on very restrictive interest rates, and that has driven the economy into negative conditions.
It's not all doom and gloom. Agriculture was up 1.4%, driven by dairy farming.
With dairying, it's been a pretty good start to the season.
The same could be said for FTN Motion.
At the moment, we still have a long wait list of customers that we're trying to catch up to. And now with the launch into Australia, it's looking really exciting.
Finding a way to get ahead, even when the road isn't smooth.
Well, OK, Zane, some more gloomy data there. When might we see things improve?
Well, it is important to remember that this data is retrospective, looking at the 3 months to September. Since then, many businesses will have had a boost in sales, with Christmas coming up and, of course, Boxing Day next week. And households will gradually be moving on to lower interest rates now that the Reserve Bank has changed tack with inflation under control. Michael Gordon, the economist in my story, told me that it can take years for lower interest rates to show up in economic data because obviously not all borrowers refix at the same time. Looking ahead, we've got another official cash rate update in February and the expectation is another rates cut, so hopefully another round of relief on the way.
OK, Zane, thanks so much for that update.